Hey, welcome YouTube. Welcome back to TubbsTV. I came on today because I was going to tell you a story that I thought about, and I thought I'd share this story with y'all. It's called "Rape Was the Case She Gave Me." So I don't know for those of y'all who are just tuning in. I'm a paralegal, and when I was in jail, you know, they call us jailhouse lawyers. So a lot of times when people get themselves in trouble, they don't have the money, they don't have the means to go out and get a lawyer to help fight to, either keep them from getting convicted or to uh, get them out of a case that they already been convicted of. So a lot of times they don't have the knowledge to file the paperwork themselves. You can file the paperwork yourself, whether you get a divorce or whether you are fighting a case, in court for your freedom. It's called pro se. When you do it yourself. So if you want to fight a case, you file your own paperwork in pro se. Most people don't have the knowledge or the experience to do it, and that's where guys like me come in. I was going to become an attorney when I left. That was my intentions. But some things happened that really kind of turned me sour, where I just had no more interest in dealing with the law. I've had some good things, but I had way more bad things happen by trying to help and free people that were incarcerated than I had good. So maybe other people had different experiences, but I'm here to tell you about mine. I helped one guy, I remember, where he had two 10-year sentences running wild, running, uh, consecutive. And I filed a motion for concurrent term of sentences for him, and the judge granted it. And so instead of having two 10-year sentences, he had one 10-year sentence, and he had 70% in on it, so he got immediate release. And as a result of helping him, um, 2 weeks after he was out, he pistol whipped his baby's mama's boyfriend. And I'm thinking, well, maybe the dude was talking shit, while he was in. A lot of them guys feel like that, hey, man, you gone for 20 years, man. I can talk to you any kind of way I want. Maybe he put his hands on his kids. I don't know the particulars behind that. So I can't really fault him on that. Uh, you just don't know. A lot of people treat you, like crap when you get locked up, and they thinking, man, you gone. I can say whatever I want to you, do whatever I want to you or your family members. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. But after he got out for 6 months, he ended up getting his mother's house shot up. He robbed somebody, got his mother's house shot up, and he also got his friend that he was riding with. Some guys were after him, and they shot up a car, were trying to kill him, and he didn't get a scratch, but his friend got killed. So I can name several stories like that I help guys get out, and instead of doing the right thing or turning their life around, they didn't. But this particular story is one of my better stories. And so the name of it is "Rape Was the Case She Gave Me." So I had this cellie, and the cellie that I had went home. So the bunk was open, and you don't have a choice. If you could put in a pass to get another celly put in before they replace it. But I figure, I'm let's see whoever else they give me. But they put this particular youngster in my cell, and so he was about 23 years old uh, when he came in. He was a phenomenal basketball player. This guy was like, it was something special to watch. And so I got to talking to him, and we became friends. And I played ball, in the joint. Nothing like on the level that this guy was on. This guy was like, he was NBA material. And the reason why I say NBA material, not just because he was a good basketball player in a joint. He went to college. He played basketball. He didn't get drafted, but he played, I think, in the D League. And so he had an opportunity to play for Minnesota. And he turned it down because he wanted to play for the Lakers. So he had this opportunity to play for Minnesota, and he turned it down. He said that was one of his biggest regrets. He should have went ahead and played for Minnesota because later on, he'd have been in the league, and then he could have got transferred. So, but they had several guys that I was locked up with that they was like that on that court. They was really good. But this guy was, like I said, he was phenomenal. He was a guard, and it was just a treat to go out there and watch him play. So as you get to talking to guys, he's showing me his pictures in college, and he showed me, what he was in when he was in college. Man, he had his nuts on a whole bunch of dudes when he was dunking on them and everything else, and it was really something special to watch. Go through his pictures, but he had ended up being a substitute teacher because he had a degree, and I think he had a associate's degree. And associate's degree allowed him to be a substitute teacher. So he was a substitute teacher for this high school. And at the time when he caught his case, he was 22 years old. And so he hadn't been to court on the rape case. He was back on a violation because he had wrote some checks. And when they went to go cash the checks, the checks bounced. And so it's a criminal offense if you write a check, that's why people say, don't write a check, your ass can't cash. Well, he wrote these checks, and he thought, well, most of they could do is go against my credit, but he was wrong. And they prosecuted him for it, and they ended up giving him, they sentenced him to 3 years for writing the checks, but they suspended it, the 3 years was suspended. So he was out, trying to finish out that probation on the 3 years when he caught this case. So he was telling me the particulars of it, because when you catch a rape case in jail, most guys, they're not going to tell nobody if they're in there for something like that, because two things that, inmates won't tolerate is harming a child and rape. A lot of times they find out you're in there for rape. It don't take much for them to get into it with you and either whoop your ass or stab you or something. They're looking for any excuse when you're a rapist in there. So he didn't want to tell anybody why he was in there, and I fully understood. So when he found out that I did law work, he was asking me could I help him with his case. And I'm going to be honest with y'all. Most time when people are in there for rape, I'm not going to help you with your case. I'm not going to help you at all. I'll tell you about another guy that was in there he had 3 rapes when I was in the county jail, and that's a story for another day. But I did work on some of his cases, and I'll get to that. But on this particular case, rape was the case she gave me. I got to talking with him, and I said, well, I'll take a look at it, but I'm not going to promise you nothing. Once I start reading the paperwork, I'm going to evaluate for myself whether I feel like you're guilty or not. And if I feel like you're guilty, I'm not about to help you get out. You're going to have to serve whatever time they gave you when it comes to me. That's just something I'm not going to do. If I find out you're in there for, hurting a child or whatever, like I said, same, criteria. If I think that you are guilty for that case, I'm going to read over everything, and I'm going to evaluate it, and I'm going to make my decision. And so that's just how it was with this particular case too. But this case was pretty interesting because he didn't have all the paperwork, and that was a red flag for me, And he was like, man, this is all they gave me. So if you can't give me all the paperwork, man, I got a problem with that, because it shows that you're trying to hide something. But he swore up and down he wasn't trying to hide something. He said, this is all the lawyer gave me. So I had filed a motion for discovery, and that's where I want all the paperwork and I want everything. But in the meantime, in between time while I was filing this paperwork, he was asking me that they wanted to give him 5 years for the case, and if he pled guilty to the case. And I was like, hell no, if you didn't do this, I'm not pleading guilty to no rape case. If I was you, don't do it. Because if you do something like that, you plead guilty to a rape, they're going to have you as a registered sex offender for the rest of your life. And he definitely couldn't get his job back, working at the school. So when he told me the particulars of the case, which I'll lay out the facts for you right now. Like I had already mentioned, he was a substitute school teacher in this annex. So you got the main building where all the students are, and then you got this small building that's an annex. And so that's where he taught at. And back then, when you had your cell phones, whenever somebody would call you, your phone number would go across the screen for a brief period of time. While they calling you, your phone number would flash. So a lot of students knew that, and these particular girls, they got his number, seen it flash, and they wrote it down. Well, one of them called him and told him that she had seen him playing basketball, and she really liked him, and she told him that she was going to college. And she was in college. It was her first year. She was 19 years old. So he had met with her and talked to her on the phone several times, and he said that they had clicked, and he really liked her, and she was spending the night over his house. So it wasn't just she was spending the night over on the weekends, on a Monday, on a Wednesday, Thursday. She spent the night, and come to find out, she was in high school. She was in the 12th grade. And she was 17 years old. She wasn't 19 years old. And so one particular time, he said they had been dating for several months. And he said that he noticed that she never really wanted to go nowhere. She always wanted to just stay in the house, watch TV, and they had sex, which was fine with him because he didn't make a lot of money, so he didn't want to go out and spend a lot of money dating anyway. And so they stayed at home, and that's what they did. But this particular Wednesday morning, he said he woke up, he turned on the news, and when he turned on the news, they had a news flash. Have you seen this girl? She's missing. And the parents are worried, and so they had the police get up on the podium and was showing their pictures. And man, he said his heart was just pounding out of his chest. He couldn't believe this, And they said she was 17 years old, and they suspect foul play. So he woke her up and told her, hey, you got to get out of here. You got to go home. You're on the news. And she's like, what? So he showed her and, got her clothes and everything else, got her out of there. And so he asked her before she left, how old are you? And she says, well, I lied. I'm 17 years old. He was like, oh, my God. And she's like, oh, so you in high school? And she said, yeah. So he asked her, well, what high school do you go to? And she said, the one that you teach at. Man, so I can imagine, the panic, how he was feeling at that particular time. He was so upset, so he got her out of there. She went home and went down to the police department because they wanted to know where she was. So it wasn't but about a day later, and he was all on the news. Teacher having sex with students, everybody in the community mad at him, and he got arrested and charged with rape. So they took and violated his probationary period for that 3 years I was telling you about that he had for writing that check. And so that's how he ended up with me in the cell. So I'm telling him, I said, man, I could take a look at the case, but I really need to look at all the paperwork. But like I said, again, I didn't do that. You didn't rape her. So no, I'm not going to advise you to plead guilty on a case like that. So while we're still fighting in the courts, because I had ended up filing like 2 or 3 times to get this paperwork, and they would not send it to me. So he ended up going off to court. So he asked me, are you sure that's what you would do? And I said, yeah, man, I'm not pleading guilty to no damn rape. Shit, you be a pedophile, branded as a pedophile your whole life. Don't do it. So he goes off to court, and while he was at court, I remember the guards came to the cell and asked to pack his stuff. And I asked him, why ain't he coming back? And they said, no, he got found guilty of the charge, and they're sending him off to a different place. I guess when you get convicted for a rape, they send you off to, I think, a program called Mossab. So I was like, wow, man. Then I got a letter from him 2 days later. He told me he had been convicted, of the crime. And I felt really bad because I just felt like I could have did more. I could have did more to help him, just only thing I advised him was just, go to trial. But I really didn't read over his paperwork, and not really because I didn't have all the paperwork. So I didn't even spend 5 minutes really reading it. I felt really bad because, him and I, he got, pretty cool. And so I wrote him back and I told him, I said, man, I'm going to do everything I can to help you, man. Send me all the paperwork this time. I need to see everything if you want me to help you. And so when I heard back from him, I got a letter and I got this big, manila envelope, and it had all the paperwork in there. It had all the police reports. It had the motions, the 2 motions that the lawyer filed, which was trash. And then it had, all the court documents. So I don't know why. Normally I start from the beginning and I work my way through. But I just wanted to read what she said, in court. I was just curious, So I read what she said in court. She took the stand and she said that she went to that high school, and she admitted that her and her friends got his phone number after his number flashed across it, and that she lied to him about her age. And she told him that she was 19 years old. And so they particularly asked her, did you have sex with him? And she said yes. They asked him how many times. She said lots of times. I can't count how many. And they said, after he found out your age, did you have sex with him? And she said yes, many times. And the case goes on where she breaks down and starts crying. They have to stop. And she just felt that, her life was over with. And she was taken advantage of. And anyway, I said, well, tonight, when I, get ready for bed, I'm going to stop, put my night light up, because, it had me a nice night light that you buy at the canteen. And I like to position my paperwork right there, get my corn chips, my drink. And I said, I'm going to start from the beginning. I'm going to start from every police report, and I'm going to read it all the way back. And I'm not going to miss nothing. Not going to miss nothing. That's what I told myself. So that night, I did exactly what I said. Got everything positioned, got my snack ready, my drink ready, paperwork ready, and I started reading. So I said, well, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to read the initial police reports of what they said when they first, interviewed her. And so the detective got her in there, and he interviewed her, and I'm going to cut to the chase. He asked her, did you tell him that you were 19 years old? And she said, yes, I did. Then they asked her, did you have sex with him? And she said, yes. And he asked how many times. She said, many times. We had sex a lot of times. And then he said, okay, so after he found out you were 17 years old, how many times did y'all have sex after that? She said, none. She says, he woke me up and showed me the news, and then he got me out the house, and he didn't want anything else to do with me. So when I seen that, and I read that initial report, I said, well, wait a minute. Hold it. Hold it, hold it, hold it. A motherfucking minute. In the state of Missouri, if a girl is 17 years old and she lies about her age, it's not rape. It's not rape. You can quote me on that. Like I said, I'm a paralegal. I'm not a licensed paralegal, but I'm a paralegal, and I know enough about the law to know that. And so it's not rape. Now, once you find out that she's 17 years old, if you continue to have sex with her even one time, that's statutory rape because you knew. He should have never been charged. So I highlighted this information. I went back into the transcripts and I highlighted when she took the stand, under oath, by the way, and she lied and she perjured herself when she said that he knew that she was 17 and they had sex after that. The two didn't match. So the next day, I made copies and shoot them off to my friend. After I shoot the information off to him, I didn't hear from him for about 2 weeks, you know. And I told him, man, you need to send this off to your lawyer. And I put together this pro se habeas. A habeas corpus is saying, hey, I need to be released based on, you know, I've got new evidence saying that I'm actually innocent of this crime and I can prove it. So anyway, sent it off to the information to the lawyer. And within 2 weeks, like I said, I got a letter from him, and he had sent me $100 money order. They released him. He was free. And I felt pretty good after that, you know. His NBA, his chance to go to the NBA, that was over with. Not because of the case, rape was the case she gave me, but it was over with because when he went to play for the Lakers, they weren't drafting him yet. They were seeing if they were going to draft him. And so when he went to get, you know, for them to, what do you call it? When he went to go get, I want to say tryouts. That's the word I'm looking for. So he went to go tryouts for him. They liked his performance. They loved everything, you know, what he was doing. And he had to go through the doctors. He said he made it through 10 doctors. I mean, 9 out of 10. I'm sorry. He made it through 9 out of 10 doctors. And the 10th doctor caught the glaucoma. So he was partially blind in his peripheral. And that alone made it where he could not play for the NBA because he had, you know, glaucoma. So when they caught that glaucoma, 9 doctors missed it, and that 10th doctor caught it. And so that's why he said, man, he wished he would have went ahead and went in and played for Minnesota. He'd already been in the league, and then he could have moved around from there. And that would have been really nice to see him play and do something, you know, really special with his life. But I was glad to see that he didn't get free case for that rape, you know, that he was charged with and he didn't do. So anyway, that is the end of Rape Was the Case She Gave Me. I hope you enjoyed the story. It's based on a true story from a really, you know, nice guy. He really was a really nice guy. So I'm glad to see that, you know, that happened the way it did, and he got out and he's free. And I can tell you for a fact, he's never committed any more crime. He's never been back to jail. I do stay in touch with him. And he's married now. Got, I don't know, 3 kids, plus the one with his baby's mama, so he got 4 kids. So he's doing good out there, and you know, works at a convenience store and lives his life free. And he still plays ball to this day. He's on some kind of little league that they got. So anyway, that's the end of Rape Was the Case She Gave Me. So I hope you liked the story. Like, subscribe, comment, And remember, I always comment back. So I'll talk to y'all later. Okay, peace.
What you know about doing hard time in the lockup? No appeal and your baby mama knocked up. You only win when a father, you gotta survive. You better have some hands to getting out of up. Seeing friends turn to foes, you can't trust nobody. Every day is a test and you gotta have heart. And you gotta be smart and you can't be a mark and a blame in your heart.
Welcome to TubbsTV.